Hello everybody, my name is Souls Convoy, and today I'm taking a look at Rising Force LF-04 Coyote, which is their take on a legend scale breakdown. Sorry for a bit of a hiatus, but I'm back now, taking a look at a legend scale release, which is more of my comfort zone. Very quick look at the box, some cute art, very simplistic, plain, not much going on. Really quick context about Rising Force. I do believe they are a complete newcomer to the third-party scene. I think it's a husband and wife pair, and this is their final Countach. So I'm really excited to take a look at it. I haven't reviewed any of the others and don't plan to. I don't plan to get the full combiner. I'm just a really big fan of Breakdown because he turns into my favorite supercar of all time. Anyways, getting into the figure, excuse the Decepticon logo. I didn't have a clear-backed one in this size, so it's a weird silver-backed. The head sculpt is really quite nice. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's not perfect by any means, and it is of course a G1 cartoon head sculpt, but I do think the shaping and angles are pretty good. It manages to get a distinct lip shape. You can see the sculpting right there. It does have some nice topography going on, actually. Let me use this ruler as a pointer. That was way too large, but I don't know, there's like a really subtle shaping to the face that I appreciate, and the lips are actually not very pronounced. They don't have that duck lip effect you sometimes see on some toys. The eyes are shaped a bit strangely, and I do believe there might be some paint overspray leaking out of the eye sockets on one side, but for the most part, I mean, it is a really nicely done head sculpt. It definitely does not feel amateur by any means of the imagination. Some mold flashing on either sides of the head, which is, I guess, acceptable at the price. But for the most part, the presentation is definitely there. The paintwork is rather nice where it is applied. It's not super messy. There's a little bit of overspray right here, but I mean, the silver on the chest is nice. These blue paint apps are fine. There is a lot of unpainted white plastic, but it is a decent shade, so I don't really think that's a huge issue. Overall, the presentation is pretty good, especially considering this is a $25 figure. I do think that for the most part, visually, it does earn its price point, to say the least. Proportions are also rather nice. He's a little bit wider than the Sunbow model would have you suggest. He's a little bit more heroic and masculine. I don't think that's an issue, making things more broad-shouldered. I know Fans Toys does that, and some people like that, some people don't like that. But I think for a, starting out third-party company, having their own visual flair is nice. Not everything has to match the model sheet. I'm just going to get into articulation and talk more about the figure's looks from there. The head sculpt is on a ball joint. The back is not as hollowed out as you'd like. There's a divot, but it only gets that far up, which is fine, more than enough. But due to the shaping of the divot, there's some limitations when it comes to, he has almost no side to side, and he doesn't really get any down. So there's not that subtle bit of expressiveness with the head down, but it's still there, but I would have liked a little bit more, perhaps. Also, there's a bit of clashing with the backpack. The backpack isn't a big issue for me. I think it's really clean and really well done, but you might feel differently. These shoulder ball joints are attached on a hinge to his torso, so that can go up and combine with the shoulder. He can get a really impressive range up. He can also get a full 360 on this ball jointed shoulder, and also he does get a considerable amount of butterfly. Normally people write off the side-to-side motion on ball joints because they don't do this well, but this is a rather nice design to get him some good range. It is a little bit exposed visually, but I think it's kind of worth the trade-off. I mean, he can do a lot with it, so that is actually a pretty good cross. Bicep swivel and only a 90-degree elbow, which is fine. And we do have a ball jointed wrist that can rotate and also tilt in any direction. This kibble right here I think is fine. It's pretty inconspicuous and adds some visual detail to the figure. We do have a waist swivel, which is impeded a little bit when you get to here, but you can kind of start working that combiner joint in the middle of the figure, which you can actually, this part is a little bit stiff. You can gradually extend the combiner joint, which is going to reveal more and more range, and eventually, you don't obviously want to go all the way because that's going to look really ugly, but if you find a good balance, you can use that for an ab crunch. how much of the combiner joint you expose will determine how much ab crunch you have, which is a caveat, of course, but depending on the pose, for example, fully exposing the combiner joint won't actually be an issue. As you can see here, even though I have the combiner joint fully exposed, especially from this angle, right, with like a tiny pose right here like this, it's not really a huge issue, right? But obviously if I try to do a pose with them standing up straight, then this would be a huge issue, right? So you have to be creative with the ab crunch, but for all intents and purposes, it is there and it is a good parts reuse. And I do think that prioritizing combiner stability over maybe like the bot mode having to be compromised to use the ab crunch is not a bad choice. I think it's a good idea for an all-in-one combiner. Or well, almost like the parts forming kibble becomes another robot. It's a lot. I'll talk about it later. Hips do go up a little bit past 90, which is nice. Really nice shaping on the hip design, by the way. I really do like the shaping here. Really good thigh swivel, and I like how this is also cut perfectly, so there's not much of a gap, but it also has zero clearance issues, which is awesome. You can also kick out, I believe you can get the full 90. You can kick backwards almost to 90, and the knees are on 3 joints. So you do get the full 180 easily, but just be wary that there are 3 joints. There's like 2 transformation joints and 1 dedicated knee, and they don't actually tab in. It's not an issue for me because they're toleranced pretty well, and it does give you excellent range and also a lot of subtlety in your stance, that you can get like a slightly S stance, you know, set up for the knee, which is really cool, and you can like kind of like exaggerate the difference between the 2 legs, which I think is kind of awesome. You know, you can obviously, this doesn't look very good right now, but you can do some things with that when you're posing the figure. So I think that has some potential. But you know, it's not a huge issue for me, but you might not like the fact that there's 3 joints to consider when posing the figure. The ankles get some good rocker. However, I will say, because of the shaping of the feet, it's not hollow by any means, its bottom part is whatever. They don't protrude that much past the feet. It's a character design thing. I mean, they don't protrude that much past the shin, so they can kind of get lost in the figure. It looks like it doesn't have feet. But they do also tilt down all the way, which is kind of extreme. And they get you like maybe 5 degrees up before they clash with the shin piece. But overall, basically 90-degree ankle tilt. So the articulation here is actually fantastic. Especially for a figure as, I guess, early on in their career as this. You know, it's not particularly designed to be well articulated, but it also utilizes some transformation joints effectively to be really posable. In terms of accessories, just really quickly, all he has is his gun. This is all he has, and that's fine for the $25 price point. I'm not really asking for more. Alt hands would have been nice though. That is one issue I have with this figure. I love the ball joints for the hands. They're very expressive, but I don't love the shape of his fists. I feel like if you just made this a regular fist hand, it would have looked much nicer. The trigger finger only helps for gun holding poses and makes everything else look slightly worse. So I do think some alternate hands, or just making this a regular fist hole hand like most other Transformers, would have been the choice to go with. Don't follow the Magic Square approach of the weird trigger fingers that don't look natural in other poses. I can't really say that's a good idea. Some comparisons with some other Legends combiner limbs, whose combiner teams I don't have anymore. Iron Factory Death Cobra, my last remaining member of the Breast Force. I kept him and did not keep Leo Kaiser. Magic Square's Brawl, and New Age's G2 Scavenger. I have a collection of combiner limbs, or Decepticon combiner limbs, and none of their teammates, but I like this. The scale is pretty good. I think he's way too big for a car, personally, but he's supposed to be like this big. Supposed to be is, you know, a big word. Personally, I think it's a little bit too large for my tastes, but it makes him playable, and I guess it's accurate, so whatever. He's also proportionally, again, like I mentioned, he is a bit wide, you know, especially compared to Toon figures like this Scavenger and even this Brawl. He feels like stockier and chunkier, which is actually an aesthetic I kind of like, but I also can see why that might feel off for some people. With some more generalized size comparisons, I left, oh wait, hold on. A really good fellow budget Decepticon figure. They're both like $25. Really good pickup as well. Magic Square's Shockwave. And then generalized size comparisons. We have a deluxe class figure. We have a core class figure. And we have a Legion class figure. So I think he has a pretty nice size. He's very playable in size, I guess. He isn't like a New Age Carbot, which sometimes feels a little bit too small. But for the most part, feels pretty great. I'm going to get him transformed, and we're going to take a look at that alternate mode. Here he is in alternate mode, and we'll start with a quick size comparison with a Legion class figure and with a core class figure. So he does compact a bit into his Countach mode, or Countach if you prefer, I do. There is a lot really going on here, and for the most part, I'll just say it's a wonderful alt mode. I do think it's probably the best rendition of this supercar in Legend scale, which is kind of sad, but I really did not like New Age Sunstreaker's alternate mode. It does not look like this at all. It doesn't look like the car at all, really. The detailing in the sculpt is pretty good. I do wish that the window covers were picked out. Like this part right here should have been painted white. It's just left black, which I understand is animation accurate, but I would have preferred that to be picked out. I do like how it's not squished to the point of parody like Magic Square's version, which just looks like it's been flattened. So the shaping is actually there, and it's actually a really nice rendition of this supercar. I'm a huge fan of this car. It's one of my favorite supercar of all time. So I am very particular about it. It's not perfect, that being said, but for a $25 toy, I believe the finish is also pretty good. The bare plastic and the painted white plastic, while accentuated by my camera and lighting, are not actually that extreme of a mismatch in hand. I do like the fact that there are rear lights, but I will concede that some of the deco work could have been improved if the figure was trying to be less tune accurate. There's some stuff that's like left out that really is left out just for the sake of the animation, which I feel could have improved the presentation overall if it was still present. But for the most part, a fantastic car mode, and it does have one accessory I forgot about. You can remove the wing and replace it with a wing that has a hole in it, so you have weapon storage. I think this looks kind of stupid and will not be using it at all, but there is weapon storage if you want it. You can just pop the wing back on, and there you have it. Just a beautiful alternate mode. I do wish the rims had detail sculpted in, but that's it. And my only other complaint is this little gap right here that interrupts otherwise rather awesome seam work in the previously mentioned unpainted window frames. But yeah, I don't know. Pretty stellar. Pretty stellar. Just a really nice car mode. Final thoughts for Rising Force Coyote. I just want to start off by saying kudos to the team at Rising Force for coming in and making their mark. A lot of third party is insular and I guess like rebrands or offshoot companies, designer overlap, and they just came in as newcomers and put out a whole combiner team in a relatively short time frame compared to most first projects, and they did a pretty good job with it. A lot of first forays by newcomers are often disasters, like Bold Forms or Trojan Horse or various others I won't go through right now, and this is honestly a solid set. One of the things I didn't touch on that I think is crucial to my final takeaway on this toy is how it handles, how it feels. The plastic, the general sculpting, the edges, this feels 110% like a toy. There is nothing about this that doesn't invite you to play with it, and it's one of the things that has made it one of my favorite Legends pickups all year. It is as playable as anyone in the third-party Legends scene. It can go blow for blow with any of those guys as a toy, and that is something that's overlooked a lot of times between, you know, our preferences with aesthetics, how tune accurate something is, how clean the transformation is, etc., etc., etc. The conversion here is also fantastic. It's simple, it's innovative, and it is really intuitive. It has some issues like with part of that quadruple knee joint assembly, having some tolerance issues there, making it hard to like line everything up, which is a trap a lot of Legends toys fall into, and honestly even modern chug toys apparently. But for the most part, other than that, sensational. It's quick, it's breezy, and it's really rewarding. The alternate mode is fantastic, and aside from some lack of painted details or sculpted rims, it is really there, and I'm really happy to have a fantastic figure of my favorite supercar. The robot mode is dynamic, it's fluid, it's posable, and yeah, sure, it's a little bit broad-shouldered and wide, maybe a little bit stout for G1 Countach, but I love how it looks. You know, I would have liked an alternate toy head, maybe that's my personal bias, but it looks fine. It looks great. I can't really say anything else. And the price is affordable. You know, I mean, it's a trifecta of total fun. It's a fun toy with a wonderful alt mode, a fun transformation at a price that most of us can afford. I can recommend this to just about anybody. As a standalone, it's wonderful. I can't recommend the full combiner team, partially because I never handled some of the members. And obviously I know that, you know, the starting members like Dead End are a lot worse, but there's a lot of improvements here, not just aside from hand feel or tolerances or whatever, but even down to things like sculpting and shaping. Like I know Dead End's thighs and hips were just blank rectangles with no detail whatsoever, and here we have these wonderfully shaped thighs and these perfectly shaped hips with good line work, and it's all done pretty well. So I think that improvement from one release to another in a 5-member combiner team is really satisfying to see when a lot of other companies have stagnated. And I want to see Rising Force do more. I want to see them do more standalone toys and watch them improve because they've shown a lot of potential. That's it from me, guys. Thank you again for tuning in for another review. I'll try to get another one out sooner. Not as much of a hiatus, but I hope you enjoyed again. Have a great one. Peace.